Hey, how's it going? So, in this video, I'm going to go over how huge a monumental 10K is as a goal, what it does to actually change your financial trajectory forever, and the three things you can do to go from 10K to 100K in less than a year. So, if you guys don't know, my name is Josh. I actually started off as a nurse. And one of the things that I always wanted to do was break out of the 9 to 5 cycle, actually get to a place where I'm not only making money, but I'm making riches. And then from riches, I'm making wealth. So I remember one day I was reading the scripture and it literally talked about the fact of saving 10 to 20% of your income, as I'm sure you guys are doing right now. But one thing that you don't realize is there's a psychological number in your head that triggers when you hit $10,000 in savings. And what it does that it actually turns and changes you from a debtor to a saver. What do I mean by that? A lot of people in America, their credit card debt, limo debt, Klarna debt, Affirm debt, Afterpay debt, and on and on and on and on. It doesn't mean that you don't have debt, but you did something that most Americans don't have, which is at least 1,000 in savings. So there's a survey that came out that said that over 50% of Americans cannot afford $1,000 emergency fund. So the fact that you've saved $10,000 in cash means that you are 10 times more prepared than the average American. So it takes you from a place of only being a debtor to being somebody who's considered a saver and places you in a prime situation where you can actually be an investor. So let's actually go through what that means. What actually is a debtor? Okay, a debtor is somebody who believes that the whole purpose is to get what you can all you get, and spend it just to cover your bills and your expenses and things of that nature. A lot of these people are actually living below the poverty line. Okay, then comes the next person who's a saver. Okay, and this is where I really want to start and focus. A saver is somebody who usually has a 9 to 5 job, they have credit cards, whatever the case may be, but they're consuming everything that they're getting in. This is one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was starting out as an entrepreneur. I remember my first year as some entrepreneur in 2015, I made over $200,000 in cash. And literally the next year, I had nothing to show for it. I literally sat down with myself. I said, Josh, what is really going on? I asked myself a question. I said, okay, what does the Bible say about money and actually saving wealth? And what is said is in the story of Joseph, right, when they had years of plenty, they were told to save literally 1/7, okay, or about 20% of everything that came in and actually keep that for a rainy day. So I did that over and over and over again, and then I reached $10,000. Okay, so now I became a saver. Here's what you need to realize. Okay, reaching $10,000 is a huge goal because psychologically, it removes you from a place where any single emergency can take you out. Okay. Number two, it instills you with confidence and safety as a person. And if you're a family man, it gives you a little cushion to kind of rely on. You're not necessarily going to, you know, be out on the streets tomorrow, right? But this actually stage right here, but this stage right here is what holds a lot of people back. Why? Because they never go on to the next level. And what is the next level? After you've saved $10,000, you want to have 3 to 4 months of your expenses in cash. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, what I mean is that $10,000 is the foundation of your financial fortress, of your financial house, of your I'm gonna get rich AF, okay, for lack of a better term. But that's only one brick of it, okay? To actually consider yourself somebody who's financially stable, you want to know that you can literally live a quarter of the year without worrying about expenses. I've helped many friends and family do this. I've given them advice. And when they finally cross over that 3 to 4 month expense mark, they literally said that they've never felt wealthier than ever before in their life. Because what that allows them to do is now start looking at investment options. Okay? The $10,000 is a great start, but I wouldn't be thinking, how can I spend this $10,000 and flip it and grow it? That won't be the next step. No. Okay? A lot of people on the internet are telling you to do that. As a point of advice, I'm telling you, keep saving until you get at least 3 to 4 months of expenses in cash and keep that in a bank. Okay, what you want to do is put that in a high yield saving account. Okay, it's called HYSA. And a high yield savings account is going to pay you 5% cash on your money month over month. An example of this is American Express. Okay, American Express has a high yield savings account, but the one I use that I like is Barclays. Okay, Barclays right now is paying 4.5% a year. So literally every month I was getting hundreds of dollars in passive income just by letting my cash sit there. Okay, and what I will do with that extra cash is now I will start investing. Okay, when your money starts making money, when you've saved 3 to 4 months of expenses, you now move from a debtor to a saver to an investor. Why? Because now you have enough cash stockpiled where your savings actually is a source of income for you. Your money starts to make money. And this is where options come in. Now, slow down. I know what you're thinking. Options, isn't that risky? Or, a lot of people lose all their money. No. That's like saying driving is risky. What do I mean by that? Just like there's different types of driving. There's somebody who can drive a bike. There's somebody who can drive a car. There's somebody who can be a professional race driver. So is the world of the stock market and options, okay? There's different type of worlds that's inbuilt into that one universe. What do I mean by that? On one end, you have day traders, people who only trade during the day. They're watching screens for 3 to 4 hours a day. On another end, you have swingers, people who buy positions that they hold it for 3 months to 6 months out, okay, just to make money over a long term. On the bottom end, you have what I call the theta gang, people who use premiums to collect cash based on time decay. And I'll explain what all these means if you ask me in the comments. Time decay pretty much means you can buy an options contract, and the options contract, if it expires worthless, which 90% of options contract do expire worthless, you get paid to take that trade, okay? Then you have the world of hedging, where the only reason people are buying options is to protect their portfolio. So for example, if you're about to retire, you have $5 million in the bank, okay? You don't want to be afraid that another COVID, another real estate crash is going to take you out. So what do? You buy options, you buy puts, okay? And those puts help you protect the downside on your money. It's literally having insurance on your money, okay? So just like car insurance and house insurance, there's literally money insurance is done through options. So what I hope is happening right now is that your brain is actually starting to ask questions. Like, if options is so vast, is it something I can do in options to actually make money in a safe way without risking a lot of capital? And the answer is yes. This is why this is so critical, and I wanted to talk about your 10K savings goal. Once you've saved enough cash, you can actually even do this with your original 10K. But remember, I want you to save till you get at least 3 months of capital, 3 months of your savings, or 3 months of expenses, okay? So for example, if your expenses are 5K a month, you want to have at least 15K saved. If your expenses are 10K a month, you want to have at least 30K saved. And the reason is you can do something called vertical spreads. Write this down. Vertical spreads, okay? Or another word for it, iron condors. When you do this in the options world, you enter and you become an insurance broker. Not like the person you call from State Farm like Jake, no. Meaning that you can actually start your own insurance company inside the stock market and make money and get paid weekly or monthly or quarterly or yearly based on the cash that you have by taking trades that are literally 90% probability of you winning. Does that sound like a good deal? Like, hey, you give me 10 grand and there's going to be a 90% chance that 10K is going to give you an extra 1 to 2K a month steady income month over month, and it's going to do that 90% of the time. That's something that you can do with an options contract when you're talking about vertical spreads, iron condors, or even things like this, cash secured puts. And I'm going to do another video on the iron condors or vertical spreads because you literally retire just with those two with a 50 or 100K account. But let me talk about a cash secured put during this video because This is going to be a game changer for a lot of you guys. Just like there's a rental property and you can actually rent out money. Sorry, just like there's a rental property and you can actually buy a rental property, put a tenant in there, a tenant's going to pay you rent. There's the same thing in the options market, okay? It's called covered calls and cash secured puts, okay? But before you get into the covered calls, which is where you rent out your stocks to somebody else and you get paid for that, for doing that, we're going to talk about the cash secured puts to actually get into that stock. I remember a story. There's some of my students, they're 70 and 75 years old, and they got a call from their broker one day. They own a stock called CNM or something like that. And they got called like, hey, somebody wants to borrow 1,000 shares of CNM from you. Do you mind if they borrow that? And for borrowing that, they're going to pay you $5,000 a month for 3 months. So $5,000 in month 1, $5,000 in month 2, $5,000 in month 3 for 3 months. And then at the end of the 3 months, you get your shares back. No harm, no foul. Of course, they said yes. And literally to their surprise, for 3 months in a row, they got $5,000, $5,000, $5,000, a total of $15,000 in cash by doing this, okay? This method, okay, it's called the will strategy, but I want to focus on the cash secured puts part of it, okay? When you rent out your shares, that's called a covered call, okay? But you can actually get paid to buy shares you want to buy. That's called a cash secured put. So let's say Apple is $100, okay? And you would love to buy Apple at $80. You would place a cash secured put for $80. And for doing that, they're going to pay you $10 per share just for placing that trade. If Apple doesn't get to $80 in 30 days, guess what? You keep the $10. If it gets to $80 in 30 days, you get the shares and you still keep the $10. If it keeps going over $80, you don't get the shares, you keep the $10. So no matter what happens, you're keeping the $10. The beautiful part is that in options contract, each contract is worth 100 of these shares. So by placing one of these trades, you can get $1,000 actually put into your account immediately that you get to keep. Matter of fact, I did a trade just like this on the PLTR, and literally with $15,000, I placed a cash secured put. I had the cash in the account in case I needed to buy the shares, and it got to $80. And they paid me $1,100 on my money in literally 2 minutes from placing the trade. So look at it this way. I had at this point a $30K account for my my 3 or 4 months expenses, and I was collecting $1K to $2K every single month on top of the cash that my account was paying me for keeping the money in there. Are you guys seeing this? So I was generating cash flow with this. This is the beauty of having literally having $10,000 saved up and 3 months of expenses saved up. But more importantly, I was able to do something else, which I love to do on my road to 100K. It's called swinging. This is when I literally use a simple strategy. When I think the market is going up, okay, I buy calls and get 50% to 100% on my money in 5 to 7 days. This is a simple trade I take a lot, and it's how I was able to grow my account very rapidly. So for example, I put 2K into a trade, and in 7 days it turned to 4,500. I took my money and I left. Okay, I'm gonna put another screenshot here of another student who literally put like 10K into a trade, and in 2 days she also made 4,500, and she closed the trade and she left. So this is something that I do over and over and over again. These are the 3 strategies I implore to get my account growing over and over and over again and get to 100K in less than a year with just a 10K account or a 20K account or a 30K account. Now here's a caveat. If you had to do one from the beginning, okay, I would start with the swinging to multiply the money, And then the more money you have, then you can start talking about the advanced options like the cash secured puts and the covered calls. Why? Because if you have 100K in cash, instead of getting 1 to 2K a month, you can now be getting 5 to 7K a month using this exact same strategy. Now you can retire early. You can retire today. You don't have to work another day in your life. Why? Because you now have a skill that pays you. So I hope that helps. I went through a lot here. I was just so excited about everything you could do with options. I kind of just dumped it on you. If you want me to do videos separating this out, just comment below and I can give you more specific comments for, or more specific training for each piece of this. The cash secured puts, the covered calls, the iron condors, the vertical spreads, and the swinging. That being said, if you're a beginner, you have cash you want to swing and multiply that to 100K or more, there's a link below. You can book a call with me and my team, and we can literally break down this 10-minute swing strategy and show you how to make money with your money. Chat soon.